President, long before I ever thought of running for office, I was a little kid born in West Virginia, coal mining town called Beckley. And my sister and I ended up going to the same grade school, not too far from our house. And as a kid, I was pretty well behaved and didn't get into much trouble. But in first grade, I got in a fight. And I got in a fight. Some kid was picking on my sister, who was a year older, second grade. And he was a much bigger guy, and it was not a fair fight. And I got involved in it and took him out with one swing. And that was my last punch that I think I've thrown in anger. But I didn't like the idea of a big guy, a bully, trying to push around somebody, whether it's my sister or not. I've never cared for that in other situations, growing up and watching behavior of people in all kinds of different situations. Our country, if you go back to our founding, we were, you recall, we took on the biggest nation on earth, the strongest nation on earth, Great Britain. It was not a fair fight. They had us badly outgunned, outnumbered. And somebody came to our rescue. And the persons that came to our rescue were the French. And if it weren't for the French, we would still be maybe a colony of Great Britain. But the French stood up and said, we're here to help. There was time for people to stand, countries to stand by and allow things to happen. There's a time to stand up and be heard. We were helped as a nation over 200 years ago by the French. We have, I think, a moral obligation to help make sure that the Ukraine has an opportunity to continue to go forward and to be a democratic nation. They are a democratic nation. They actually they elect their own leaders. And but Vladimir Putin doesn't care very much for that. Thinks that they shouldn't be allowed to do so, and has decided to use force to be able to take away the obligation, the opportunity to be a free nation. And we have a couple of opportunities. We can criticize Putin, the Russians, for what they're talking about doing, or we can actually do something about it. I served, I think I may be the last Vietnam veteran serving here in the United States Senate. But if you go out from here, I like to run, and many mornings when I've gone for a run here in the Capitol, I'll run out to the Lincoln Memorial. And I run, on my way back, I run right by the Vietnam Memorial. And it's a black granite, and there are the names of, I want to say, maybe 59,000 people who died in that war and that I served in. We got involved in that war. It was not a popular war. It wasn't popular with my generation, but we got involved in that war. The communists, North Vietnam, were coming in and trying to take over the South, and we ended up, for better for worse, siding with the South, and we know what the outcome turned out to be. But a lot of people died. A lot of people died in that war, and I know a number of them, and my guess is my colleagues do as well. I tell that story because we have a situation here. It's not altogether different, in which the Ukrainian people who want to defend themselves, they want to preserve their democracy, and they are willing to make the tough fight if we will help them, and the rest of the free world will help them. God bless our president and leaders of a bunch of other countries who said, we're not going to walk away and let Putin have his way and take away the democracy of the people in Ukraine. We're going to help them. And and we're going to help them not by sending, as we did in the Vietnam War, our own young soldiers, sailors, airmen. We're not going to send them to Ukraine to defend the Ukraine. We're going to send them munitions. We're going to send them drones. We're going to send them missiles. We're going to send them ships, aircraft. We'll do that. And that's really all the Ukrainians are asking for. That's all they're asking for. They're asking for that kind of help. We ought to provide it. We ought to provide it. I used to fly missions. I was in a naval flight officer, P-3 aircraft mission commander. We used to fly a lot of surveillance missions around the world, track Soviet submarines everywhere across the planet. We also flew a lot of missions off the coast of Vietnam and a lot of missions in the South China Sea. Even the years, decades ago, when I was flying missions with my squadron in the South China Sea, we were concerned about the militarization of the South China Sea by China. And trying to take over islands that were not theirs, that maybe had been claimed by the Philippines and other nations. And the Chinese were taking them over, and with the idea of militarizing them and ultimately making maritime trafficking, moving of ships and aircraft through the South China Sea more and more difficult. We used to fly missions in the Vietnam War. We used to fly missions out of Vietnam. By the time in '68, I was commissioned in '68. By that time, we pulled a lot of land-based aircraft, B-52s, P-3s, which is land-based aircraft for the Navy. We pulled them out of Vietnam, and we flew our missions out of Thailand, Utapao, big Air Force base. We flew missions out of Taiwan, places in the southern part of the island, Tainan, which is an Air Force base in Taiwan. And I had a chance to be deployed there from time to time. Got to know some of the people who lived in Taiwan. Wonderful people, lovely people. And you know what they were concerned about? All those years ago, they were concerned about China coming in and taking them over, trying to take away their independence. And not just militarize the South China Sea and to transform a bunch of islands into bases, if you will, for the Chinese military, but to actually take over a democratic country that's never been a part of China and make them do the bidding of China. Mark my word, if Vladimir Putin is successful in prevailing in the Ukraine, if he's successful, Taiwan will be next. As sure as I'm standing here today, President Xi, the leader of China, who says Taiwan is theirs, he'll be right into the hunt, right into the fight. And we have and could trigger a real world conflict between them and us. Wouldn't be good for either of us, but we would, I think, be beholden to defend Taiwan. But why don't we bring a halt to that idea of China getting involved and trying to come after Taiwan? Why don't we just, and having to commit our own troops, why don't we just take care of it by making sure that the people of Ukraine have the ships, the aircraft, the tanks, the missiles, the armament that they need to prevail on their own against Russia. We wouldn't have to commit our own troops. Wouldn't have to worry about the kind of body bags that came back from Vietnam when I was serving in the Vietnam War. We would end up with a free Ukraine, and I think we'd have a much better chance of making sure that the folks in Taiwan would continue to enjoy their independence as well. I'm wearing a lapel pin here that people ask me about from time to time, even today. I say, what kind of a lapel pin is that? It's an American flag, and it's a Ukrainian flag as well. And a couple of days after Russia invaded the Ukraine, I sent somebody over from my staff to the Ukrainian embassy to get this lapel pin. I've worn it every day since. Every day since. And I get a lot of people. I go back and forth on the train, as my colleagues know. Live in Delaware, go back and forth on the train almost every day. And it's amazing how many people I run into on the train, at the train stations, or traveling around the country. And they'll say, what is that? What is that you're wearing? And when I explain it, I don't recall one person ever saying, you shouldn't wear that, or that's a bad idea. People say, good for you. Good for you, and we ought to help them. Presiding officer may recall a couple of months ago when, in fact, this year, and maybe last year, President Zelenskyy came here, not to this chamber, but he came into the Senate chamber, the old Senate chamber, just down the hall. And he spoke in a closed room to members of the Senate, Democrats and Republicans, and a very emotional, very compelling language. We laid out the situation that they faced, laid out how important our support was, and how grateful that they were for us willing to stand by them, stand up for them. And his speech was interrupted any number of times by standing ovations by Democrats and by Republicans. I happened to be sitting right in front of his podium where he was speaking, about as far away as our stenographer was standing for me today. And during the course of his speech, a couple of times we had eye contact, and I think I tried to give him encouragement in a sort of way, and I think I did. But when it was over, he walked away from the podium, and I walked up to him, and I shook his hand, and I hugged him. And I don't get to hug national leaders every day, but I hugged him, and he hugged me. And I said to him, "You're a hero." I said to him, "You're a hero." And he reached over and he touched my lapel pin, and he said to me in response, he said, "No." He said, "You are our heroes." He said, "You are our heroes." Now, I just want to say, in the months that have passed since then, when we have floundered, kind of washed around and trying to figure out, are we going to continue to provide aid and support for Ukraine? And I thought, he was back a couple of months later, and I had a chance to talk to him again. And again, he said, "You are a hero. You are heroes." Talking about us in this body and in the House of Representatives. And I said to my staff later that day and my colleagues later that day, I said, you know, it's funny, I don't feel much like a hero. This was a couple of months ago when he was here. I don't feel much, because we were on the verge of like pulling the plug on the aid, the assistance we're going to provide to the Ukraine. There's a very real chance that we could pull the plug, take away the help, and Putin and the Russians would just move in and take over. And I didn't feel like a hero with that sort of staring us in the face. When we leave this week and go back to our districts, our states, our homes across the country, and reflect back on what we've done, what we've decided, I want to feel like a hero. I want all of us to feel like a hero or a heroine, and deserve to be feeling that way. There is I'm a great student of World War II, and some of my colleagues are as well. And remember a time when Churchill was leading the Allied world and rising and standing up and warning against the threat that Germany faced, provided for the rest of us, and urging us to be brave and be strong, be vigilant, come to the aid of Europe. There was another guy named Chamberlain, who was, his name is sort of thought of in terms of appeasement. Churchill, engage, defend, be strong. Chamberlain, appease. We have a chance here to be more like Chamberlain, more like Churchill, more like Churchill, and less like Chamberlain. And I hope and pray when we vote here today, maybe even tomorrow, that's exactly what we'll do. I want us to make not just the folks of Ukraine and Taiwan and other, I don't want them just to be grateful. I want the people that we serve who elect us and send us here, I want them to be proud of what we've done and the work that we've done on their behalf and on behalf of these other countries who need our help. We are the beacon for democracy for the world. We've been, our Constitution is the longest living Constitution in the history of the world. It basically lays out how a democracy should operate, and for all these years we have. We need to hold that to our heart, and we need to do the right thing. The last point I'd say is this: my mom was a deeply religious woman. I've shared this with some of my colleagues before. She would drag my sister and me in West Virginia, coal mining town in West Virginia. She'd drag us to church every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, every Wednesday night, and even on Thursday night. And then we'd go home and she'd turn on TV and we'd watch Billy Graham on television. She wanted us to have a deep faith, but she really wanted us to hold dear the golden rule, the idea that we should treat other people the way we want to be treated. How would we want to be treated if we were the Ukrainian people today? How would we want to be treated if we were the Taiwanese people today, facing the kind of threats that they face? We would want the rest of the world, the rest of the free world, to come to their aid. Not to send troops, not to send fighter pilots and all, but to give them the tools that they need to take on this fight and to win it. When we do that, if we do that, and I'm encouraged that we will, we'll deserve the words of President Zelenskyy when he said, you are our hero. You are our hero. Let's be that hero. Thank you very much. I yield back.